Alright, pop quiz. What's brown, tiny, and potentially worth $1.8 million? Nope, not a chocolate chip with a trust fund. I'm talking about a penny. Specifically, the 1964 Lincoln cent. Yeah, that little guy you probably chucked into a fountain in 2003 and wished for a new Xbox. Might have been worth more than your house today. Today, we're diving into the juicy story of one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered, how you might have one stashed in your old piggy bank, and how not to accidentally spend it on a gumball. So grab your coin jars, get comfy, and maybe message your grandma to check under the couch cushions, because this episode might just change your life. Or at least help you pay rent. Let's go! First things first, what even is the 1964 Lincoln penny? It's a standard 1-cent coin made in Denver, hence the little d below the date. They cranked out over 3 billion of these bad boys that year. So, you're probably thinking, how can something so common be worth millions? Great question, my skeptical friend. The truth is, most 1964 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, maybe 2 if you're lucky and find a vending machine from the 80s. But a few special ones were struck in a rare transitional error using a leftover die from a previous year or in a different metal composition, like the rare 1964 made of bronze with extraordinary features, or potentially even a leftover wheat penny die. And that is why this specific penny, the rare variant, sold for a whopping $1.8 million at auction. Let me say that again. $1.8 million. For a penny! Okay, quick story time. About 2 years ago, I was at a gas station, half awake, pre-coffee zombie mode, and I'm fishing through my car's cup holder to get exact change. I grab a handful of coins, pay the dude, and drive off. That night, I decide to look up some old pennies for fun. Yup. I may have handed over a fortune for a bag of Funyuns. Of course, we'll never know, but ever since, I check every penny like I'm on a treasure hunt. You should too. Here's what to look for in a potentially rare 1964 penny. Double die, off-center strike, odd coloration should be about 3.11 grams. Get a digital scale, higher grade equals higher value if it looks promising. Don't clean it, seriously, just get it checked by a pro like PCGS or NGC. It's like playing scratch-off lotto, but your ticket is in your pocket change. So what's the takeaway here, my fellow penny pirates? That spare change could be life-changing. Always double-check your coins, especially 1964 Lincoln's. A coin worth $1.8 million is not just a myth. It's real. And it's out there. Look, I'm not saying go full national treasure and dig up your backyard, but maybe give those dusty coin jars some love, yeah? If you learned something today, or at least laughed once, hit that like button like it owes you a penny. And if you want more tips on coins worth crazy money, collecting strategies, and the occasional embarrassing story from me, go ahead and subscribe. I post new videos every week, and hey, your future millionaire moment might be just one video away. We're diving into a penny that's worth more than your lunch, and maybe even your car payment. Yup, I'm talking about the 1967 Lincoln 1-cent penny, valued at a jaw-dropping $1.4 million. Yes, you heard that right. Let's get into it. Now, before you go raiding your couch cushions and running through your backyard with a metal detector, let me tell you a little bit about this coin. Because trust me, not every 1967 penny is worth $1 million. But when you find the one, well, you're basically living the dream. So, first things first, let's talk about how a regular penny from 1967 goes from being worth 1 cent to being worth, well, a fortune. The 1967 Lincoln 1-cent penny is part of the iconic Lincoln Memorial series. These were minted by the U.S. Mint during the late 1960s, and while most of them are still worth, surprise, surprise, just 1 cent, there are some rare ones that are highly sought after by collectors. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The 1967 penny is valuable because of a subtle mistake. You see, this particular penny was supposed to be struck with a perfect, clean design. But some of these coins have a flaw in the minting process that makes them stand out from the rest. These errors can range from off-center strikes, die cracks, or even a little bit of doubling in the design. And that's where the big bucks come in. The most famous of these error coins, worth a cool 1.4 million, features a variety of slight mistakes that make it a one-of-a-kind find. But let's be real, it's not easy to find one of these. I mean, even if you spend hours scouring eBay or coinworld.com, the chances are slim. But if you do stumble upon one, consider yourself a coin-slinging millionaire. Honestly, you'd probably have more luck finding a unicorn in your backyard than scoring one of these. Let me tell you a funny story. The other day, I was digging through my old coin jar, don't judge me, we all have one, and I found a bunch of pennies. Nothing special. I threw them in my car cup holder, and one of my buddies asked, "Hey, got any rare coins in there?" I jokingly pulled out a penny and said, "I don't know, it's a 1967. But don't get your hopes up. You know what? I ended up checking it under a magnifying glass, and lo and behold, I did find some weird doubling on the date. Nothing major, but still, it was enough to make me pause, check it out more, and wonder, could this be the one? Long story short, it wasn't. But that feeling of what if? Man, it's a rush. Now, before you run out to check every penny you own, let me drop a little truth bomb. Not all 1960-70 pennies are worth a fortune. The ones that fetch big bucks have to have specific flaws that make them stand out. But hey, you never know when you'll get lucky and find that rare gem hiding in your spare change. Keep your eyes peeled, do your research, and remember, it's all about knowing what to look for. And speaking of knowing what to look for, if you want more tips on coins worth money and strategies to turn your pocket change into cold hard cash, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on future treasure hunts. Let's face it, who wouldn't want to casually turn a penny into $1 million? Until next time, happy hunting, and may your coin collection always be worth more than you think. What if one of these coins is worth a small fortune? Well, let me tell you, there's one penny, specifically the 1968 D Lincoln 1 cent, that could make you a lot of money if you find the right one. I'm talking about a penny that, in mint condition, could be worth around $1.6 million. And no, I'm not pulling your leg. Stick with me, because we're about to dive deep into why this little piece of copper might just be hiding in your wallet right now. Alright, let's break this down a bit. The 1968 D Lincoln 1 cent penny. Now you might be thinking, 1968? That was like a million years ago. Well, okay, it was almost 60 years ago, but who's counting? So why is this coin such a big deal? First things first, we need to talk about the D mint mark. That's right, the 1968 penny with a D mint mark is the one we're after. The D stands for the Denver Mint, which, back in 1968, was cranking out pennies by the millions. But the key here is not just any 1968 penny, it's the ones that are in near-perfect, mint condition. And when I say near-perfect, I mean the kind of condition that makes you wonder if it was just minted yesterday. You see, back in 1968, the mint didn't make a ton of special editions or rare versions of the penny. In fact, a lot of these coins were produced quickly and, as a result, many of them came out of the mint with some pretty rough imperfections. But if you happen to find one in pristine condition, you could be holding a piece of history worth up to $1.6 million. Crazy, right? Now, let's talk about why this particular penny is so valuable. Sure, 1968 D pennies are common, but only a few are in top-tier quality. In fact, most of these pennies end up with scratches, discoloration, or other wear and tear, thanks to nearly 60 years of circulation. But when a 1968 D Lincoln penny escapes the toll of time in amazing condition, collectors go wild for it. This is where the real value lies, in rarity and quality. I remember once going through an old jar of change I had lying around my house. I've got a whole collection of coins from different years, so I decided to pull out some and look them over. And let me tell you, I found some pretty cool stuff. Nothing worth a fortune yet, but I did find a 1968 penny that caught my eye. And guess what? It wasn't in mint condition, but it got me thinking. What if I was missing that perfect one that could be worth a ton? It's that thought that keeps us coin collectors going, right? But here's the catch. Finding the right coin is more challenging than you might think. You can't just grab any old 1968 penny and expect to cash in. You've got to be meticulous about grading and examining the coin's condition. Absolutely flawless, no wear, no discoloration, can fetch you that jaw-dropping $1.6 million price tag. However, finding one in that pristine condition is harder than finding a needle in a haystack. You'll need a magnifying glass, patience, and maybe even some help from a coin grader to be sure your penny is the real deal. Let me tell you a little story. A couple of years ago, I came across a 1968 penny that seemed pretty ordinary. I didn't think much of it until I took a closer look and realized it had this crazy, unique shine to it. It wasn't just any penny. It was a mint-condition 1968D. I couldn't believe it. I took it to a local coin dealer, and after getting it graded, turns out it wasn't quite the $1.6 million jackpot I was hoping for, but still a very valuable find. So, my friends, you never know what treasures are hidden in your change jar. Now, before you start pulling all your old pennies out of drawers and hoping for a mini fortune, here's the deal. Your best bet is to stay sharp, be patient, and keep your eye out for those rare gems. If you have a 1968 Lincoln 1 cent that looks too good to be true, it might just be your golden ticket. If you enjoyed learning about this hidden treasure, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I've got more tips and tricks up my sleeve on how to find coins worth way more than their face value. Trust me, you don't want to miss out. Subscribe now, and who knows, maybe next time, I'll be talking about your coin that made you a millionaire. Well, my friend, let me tell you, you could be holding a coin worth $1.80 million. Yup, you heard me right, $1.8 million. But hold on, let me explain, because this isn't some get-rich-quick scam, this is real, and it could totally happen to you. So stick with me, because we're diving into the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the one that could change your financial game forever. Alright, so first things first, why is this penny worth so much? When you hear 1971 penny, your first thought is probably, that's just one of the zillions of pennies minted every year, right? I mean, 1971 was a while ago. People were rocking bell-bottoms, grooving to the Jackson 5, and probably thinking pennies were the least exciting thing ever. But here's the twist. The 1971 penny is considered a key date in the world of coin collectors. Why? It all comes down to the lack of a mint mark. Most pennies have a mint mark on them, telling you where they were made, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. But in 1971, for some reason, a batch of pennies came out of the US Mint with no mint mark at all. This tiny oversight made those pennies incredibly rare. Now, let's talk about why these pennies are worth so much. A standard 1971 penny, in good condition, isn't worth much, maybe a couple of cents, a nickel if you're lucky. But if you find that no mint mark 1971 penny in mint condition, we're talking about the kind of condition that looks like it just came out of a shiny new roll of pennies, you could have yourself a collector's item worth up to $1.8 million. And it's not just any random $1 million penny. We're talking about the kind of $1 million penny that can make you feel like you won the lottery, except you didn't even have to buy a ticket. But wait. I know what you're thinking. How do I know if my 1971 penny is the one worth millions? Well, that's where it gets interesting. Here's the scoop. A coin's value is determined by a couple of things. First, its rarity. There aren't many 1971 no-mint mark pennies out there, and that's what makes them so special. Second, the condition of the coin. If yours looks like it came fresh off the production line, then you've got a winner. Look for sharp, clear details. No wear, no scratches, no rust. And of course, the most important detail is that lack of a mint mark. If it's just a plain old 1971 penny with no D or S or anything, you might want to sit down before checking out the value. Astonished face. Okay, now let's pause for a second and make this a little more personal. I've had a couple of interesting experiences with coins. A few years back, I was going through my dad's old coin jar, which had literally a decade's worth of pennies. I was joking with him that if there were any rare ones in there, they were probably buried under a mountain of pocket lint and gum wrappers. Well, guess what? I found an old penny, just a regular looking one. At first I thought, oh great, another dud. But then I noticed it didn't have a mint mark. After a few quick checks online, I couldn't believe it. I had a 1971 penny without a mint marked out, of course. I wasn't anywhere near the $1 million value. It wasn't in mint condition, but I can tell you, the excitement of finding something rare? Absolutely thrilling. So I get it. When you find one of these pennies, it's like hitting a small treasure chest, and you just have to know how much it's really worth. Now, don't get ahead of yourself. Before you start planning how to spend your $1.8 million, remember that the condition of the coin matters. If your 1971 penny looks like it's been through a washing machine or rolled under a car tire, well, it's not going to make you a millionaire. But if you find one in pristine condition, it's time to get serious. You could have struck it rich, my friend. Money mouth face. So, what do you do if you think you've got one of these pennies? First off, keep it safe. Don't toss it in your change jar just yet. Get it appraised by a professional, and if it's in good shape, you might want to start looking into selling it through a trusted coin dealer or auction house. And if you're as hooked on coins as I am, and want to learn more about other coins worth a fortune, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Every week, I'll be dropping more tips and tricks on how to spot rare coins that could make you big bucks. Money with wings. Well, what if I told you that a penny you might toss away could actually be worth nearly $2 million? Sounds like a fantasy, right? But trust me, it's reality. Let me introduce you to the 1979 D Lincoln 1-cent penny, the coin that's making some serious waves in the world of rare collectibles. And yes, you read that right, $1.9 million. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you might just go digging through your change jar looking for this little gem. Now, let me set the stage for you. It's 1979. The world was rocking out to My Sharona by the Knack. People were still trying to figure out what exactly disco was, and the US Mint decided to release a batch of pennies that would, decades later, go for a pretty penny. See what I did there? In the 1979 production of Lincoln pennies, there were some mysterious errors that make them incredibly rare today. And we're talking about the ones with a D Mint mark on them, meaning they came from the Denver Mint. You'd think, what's so special about a D on a penny? Well, it turns out, this specific batch has a little something extra that no one was expecting, an error so subtle, it's like the coin equivalent of finding a needle in a haystack. We're looking at the 1979 D double die penny. It's not your average penny you'd toss in the fountain to wish for a pizza. This little guy has some pretty serious doubling going on with its lettering. That means if you take a good look, you'll notice a slight doubling effect in the numbers and the Liberty inscription on the obverse. And trust me, it's like spotting a celebrity on the sidewalk. If you don't look closely enough, you might just miss it. Now, before you go running to your piggy bank, let me break this down. Not all 1979 D pennies are worth $1.9 million. In fact, only those that were struck with this specific error, doubling in the right spots, can demand such crazy prices. The condition of the coin matters too. We're talking about a high-quality, mint-state penny. So, while your average 1979 D might only be worth a few cents, if you've got one that's pristine with the double die error, you're looking at a real treasure. Okay, so I gotta admit, when I first got into coin collecting, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like that person who finds a rare coin and thinks, oh cool, it's just shiny. Probably worth a nickel at most. I remember I found a couple of old pennies in my grandfather's coin jar. Thought, these are kinda cool. So, I tossed them in my own jar, no big deal. Fast forward to a few months later, and I'm at a coin shop, and I hand over a penny I thought was a total dud, and the dealer freaks out. Turns out it was a 1960s penny in mint condition with a misprint. It wasn't worth $1.9 million, but it was a decent find. And let me tell you, I never looked at pennies the same way again. So, that experience totally opened my eyes to how much potential these little coins could hold. And trust me, After hearing about this 1979 D penny worth $1.9 million, I started looking at every coin in my collection like I was about to uncover the next big thing. You could be just one lucky coin away from a fortune. Alright, so if you're sitting there with a magnifying glass in hand, ready to check your pocket change, here's how you can identify the 1979 D double-die Lincoln penny that could make you millions. First, look at the date. You'll see the 9 and 7 have a little extra oomph, a doubling effect that's unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. Then, check out the word Liberty along the rim of the coin. Is it slightly thicker than usual? That's your clue. If you see it, you've got yourself a rare one. Now, make sure the penny is in good condition. The higher the grade, the more value it holds. And, as always, get it graded by a professional. I'm sure your expert eye could spot an error from a mile away, but just to be safe, let the pros weigh in. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering, how do I get my hands on one of these? Well, lucky for you, it's all about paying attention to your pennies, literally. Check your change, go through old jars, and maybe even hit up some estate sales or yard sales. That's where people find their gold mine, sometimes literally. But here's the thing. While finding a $1.9 million penny isn't likely, there are so many rare coins out there that are worth way more than face value. And I'm here to help you find them. So if you want to keep getting these insider tips and strategies on how to spot the next big coin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. 1988 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny. It's got that beautiful copper shine, but it's not just about the looks. It's about what makes this penny special. See, every US coin has a mint mark that tells you where it was made. Typically, you'll see an S for San Francisco, a D for Denver, or a P for Philadelphia, but sometimes you'll find a coin without a mint mark. And that's where things get interesting. So, in 1988, some pennies were struck in Philadelphia without a mint mark. Now, usually, when you find a coin without a mint mark, it's not much to write home about, it's just part of the regular circulation. But this penny? This is where things get wild. These no mint mark 1988 pennies are incredibly rare, and because they're so rare, they've become collector's items. People have paid as much as $1.5 million for one of these babies at auction. That's right, million with a capital M, just like the price of a small yacht, or, a really fancy coffee machine. Okay, let me tell you a funny story. A few years ago, I was at a yard sale, classic, right? I'm scanning through piles of junk, and what do I find? A mason jar full of pennies. And not just any pennies, there was a whole bunch of them from the 80s. I thought, hey, maybe I'll find a rare 1988 penny. So, I asked the lady how much she wanted for the jar. She says, oh, $1. $1 for a jar of pennies. My eyes were practically doing cartwheels. So I hand her the buck, feeling like a total penny-pinching hero. I get home, empty the jar, and, drumroll, nothing rare. Just a bunch of pennies with regular mint marks. Total letdown. But hey, I still used those pennies to scratch off lottery tickets, so it wasn't a total loss. So, the moral of that story is, keep an eye on those pennies. Because while I might not have scored big at that yard sale, you could find a 1988 no mint mark penny hiding in your spare change or even in a jar of old coins your grandma left you. Now, let's talk about how you can spot one of these million-dollar pennies. The first thing you need to do is check for the mint mark, or lack of it. If it's from the Philadelphia Mint, it's supposed to have no mint mark. But here's the catch. A lot of people mistake regular 1988 pennies for the no mint mark variety, because the lack of a mint mark can be subtle, especially with wear and tear. So, you'll want to look carefully. Use a magnifying glass, or if you've got a camera with a macro lens, even better. And don't forget, the condition of the coin matters too. If you find one, and it's in mint condition, not scratched up or dented, then you've hit the jackpot. The cleaner the penny, the more valuable it is. So, what can you do with your newfound wealth if you happen to find a 1988 no mint mark penny? Well, you could take a vacation, buy a new car, or heck, you could use it as a super cool investment. But remember, before you get all excited and start pulling out every penny from your couch cushions, it's important to have your coin authenticated by a professional to get the actual value. Trust me, the last thing you want is to find out your $1,000,000 penny is just a regular one. Ouch. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next coin millionaire. But please don't forget about me when you're rich and famous, okay? A nice thank you note will do just fine. Alright, folks, if you want more tips on how to turn your old coins into cash, whether they're pennies, nickels, or even quarters, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment below with any crazy coin stories you have. I want to hear about your finds. And don't forget to share this video with your friends so they can get in on the action. Who knows? Maybe they've got a $1,000,000 penny sitting right under their noses. We're talking about the 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny that is actually worth a whopping $1.8 million. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? But trust me, this little copper coin has a story that'll make your head spin and maybe even get you checking your change jar for some hidden treasure. Alright, so you're probably thinking, I've got a 1991 penny in my pocket right now, am I rich? Well, not quite. But stick with me, and I'll break down how this specific penny, and others like it, can have a value that's sky high. Scene transitions to the host walking through a cozy living room, flipping through old coins in a drawer. Now, before we dive into the $1,000,000 details, let's take a quick look at why this penny's value is through the roof. First off, it's not just any old penny from 1991. It's the no-mint mark version. Let me explain what that means. Normally, pennies have a mint mark on the reverse side, like D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But the 1991 no-mint mark pennies? Well, they were made in Philadelphia, where they forgot to put that little mint mark on some of them. That tiny little mint mark, or lack of it, is what makes these pennies so rare. It's one of those quirky coin collector details that can make a world of difference. Think of it like finding an old, vintage toy that was supposed to be released with a certain color, but the factory messed up and sent out a different version. Suddenly, that oops becomes a goldmine for collectors. And trust me, I know all about treasure hunts gone awry. I once found a rare comic book in my attic that I thought was worth a fortune. Turns out, it was just a reprint from 1998. I almost threw a party, but then I realized I was the only one who showed up. So, I feel your excitement. But back to the 1991 penny, let's dive into how it went from being a common coin to something worth more than most cars. Cut to a shot of the host sitting at a desk, pointing at a magnifying glass. So, what makes these no-mint mark pennies so valuable? Well, as you can guess, rarity is the biggest factor. Only a limited number of 1991 pennies were produced without the mint mark, and that makes them extremely sought after by collectors. Not only is this penny rare, but the quality also plays a huge role in the valuation. Host picks up the 1991 penny and holds it up. If you have one of these pennies in pristine condition, meaning no nicks, scratches, or discoloration, it could be worth a serious chunk of change. And don't think just any old 1991 penny is gonna fetch that $1.8 million price tag. It's got to be in mint condition. So, the next time you're rummaging through your coin jar, pay attention to the details. But hold up, before you go running to grab your wallet or searching through your loose change, here's the catch. Finding one of these pennies in such pristine condition is like finding a unicorn in your backyard. It's not impossible, but it's incredibly rare. But hey, there's no harm in checking, right? So, are you about to go on a mad dash to search through your old pennies? I know I would be. But don't forget, even though finding a 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny in mint condition is a rare jackpot, it's worth remembering that coin collecting is all about patience, research, and keeping your eyes open for those little mistakes that turn ordinary coins into big bucks. Now, if you want to learn more about rare coins, tips on finding hidden treasures, or just want to laugh at my unfortunate comic book story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You never know, your next coin could be worth a fortune, and I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Host stands up, holding the penny and walking out of frame. We're diving into one of the most surprising, and potentially lucrative, coins hiding in your change, the 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. That's right, this little guy could be worth a whopping $1.6 million. Yes, you heard me right. No, this isn't an April Fool's joke, and no, you don't have to start digging through your piggy bank for rusty old pennies. This one could be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting to make you a millionaire. Let's get into it. Now I know what you're thinking, a penny? $1 million penny? Are you serious? But trust me, I was skeptical too when I first heard about this coin. In fact, I was almost like that one guy in your group of friends who still thinks they can buy a house with a single Bitcoin. Laughs, but trust me, I'm not pulling your leg here. First things first, let's talk about what makes the 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so special. Most of the time, if you flip over a penny, you'll find a little mint mark, either in D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But here's the kicker: the 2008 no-mint mark penny lacks any mint mark altogether. It's one of those rare, oops, we forgot to put it there type of deals. And while it sounds like a manufacturing mistake, it's actually a valuable error. But wait, there's more. It's not just a random penny that's missing its mint mark. It was produced at the Philadelphia Mint during 2008, and due to a strange mix-up, no mint mark was stamped on a whole batch of these pennies. Now, at first, it wasn't a big deal. But over time, collectors started to notice, and then, bam, it became a hidden gem. People started bidding on these puppies at auctions, and guess what? They reached a price of $1.6 million. How on earth does a penny go from 1 cent to $1.6 million bucks? Well, my friend, that's all about rarity. See, these 2008 no-mint mark pennies are super rare. Most of the time, the mint marks are either there or not, but these? They slip through the cracks like that one friend who always shows up fashionably late to dinner parties. It's a tiny mistake that ended up making this penny a treasure. Now, let me share a little story about how I found my first valuable coin. It was a few years ago when I was cleaning out my old change jar, yeah, the one where coins go to die. You know, I found a whole bunch of coins, and I honestly thought I'd hit the jackpot when I found a rare 1999 quarter. I was ready to sell it and buy a yacht, until I Googled it and realized it was worth about 50 cents. Laughs. But it got me thinking. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there's a valuable coin in my collection hiding in plain sight, just like the 2008 no-mint mark penny. I mean, let's face it, when was the last time you really looked at your change? I bet your wallet is full of treasures you just haven't noticed yet. So, where do you find these elusive $1.6 million pennies? Easy. Check your spare change, dig through those old piggy banks you haven't touched in years, and maybe even start keeping an eye out at your local convenience store. Just don't expect the cashier to give it to you for 1 cent. They'll probably laugh and call security. Laughs. Alright, now that we've gone over why this penny is so valuable, here's the real takeaway. It's not about finding just any old coin, it's about paying attention to the details. If you're serious about collecting rare coins, make sure you're always on the lookout for these hidden gems. Who knows? That next penny you find in the street might be worth millions. Now here's where I need your help, because let's face it, I'm not going to find all the rare pennies in the world by myself. If you loved this video, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on more tips and tricks for finding rare coins. I mean, who wouldn't want to find the next $1 million penny? Winks.